and welcome yet again to the Voices of Ability, a podcast that is amplifying the voices and the stories of persons with disabilities. But of course, this is under the We Are Able program. And today we are going to be talking to a person who is living with a disability, but he's quite ambitious himself. And we're also going to be sharing how communication integrates within this system, and also as well talking about persons with disabilities. I'll start with you, Tony. Tell us about yourself and what drives you and motivates you to continue working hard as a person.
Okay, thank you so much. My name is Tonny Mulenzi, and that is my sign name. I'm a Learning and Documentations Officer with Light for the World. Thank you so much for the question that you have asked about what inspires me to work. Me as a person living with a disability, I'm connected more with the world, and I want to see that voices of young persons with disabilities are always amplified, because the stories say that we can always change the mindsets of people.
Oh, that's very interesting. Could you tell us a bit about how you started? What is your story? How did you start working with Light of the World? And from then on, what other opportunities have you been able to get for yourself?
After I graduated from Chambogo University, I did my internship from Parliament of Uganda. I tried to look for jobs, but it was really difficult. But I was so lucky that Light for the World announced for a 3-month associate program for story collecting that was happening in northern Uganda. So I applied and I went to northern Uganda and I worked there for 3 months. But my boss was really excited with what I was doing. And after the 3 months were done of collecting stories of young people, my boss decided to add me more 3 months. Out of the 3 that they had planned, they added me more 3 months. So the experience was really good. And after 1 year of working with them, actually the organization was called Uganda, I joined Makerere University where we were doing research. Yes, I was a youth researcher. So I got a lot of experience in research and documenting. So when I saw an opportunity for Learning and Documentations Officer with Light for the World, I applied for it. And that is how I was able to join Light for the World.
And that's a very interesting story. I just like how you've come from, not having a job, even when you interned with Parliament, and then to just joining Light of the World and other opportunities. And we're so glad that you continue progressing in your career. I'll go to our communicator, Charity. Charity, tell us more about yourself, your work, what you do, and what interests you beyond work.
Okay. Hi, everyone. My name is Charity Kiwumulo. I work with Light for the World as the Communications and Information Officer. And what inspires me about my work is that I've always wanted to be part of different causes, but mainly causes that impact lives and change people. So that's why I communicate. Every time I'm communicating, I know I am saving a life out there. The information I'm putting out there is going to be used to change a life, to make someone's life better, to change mindset. So I communicate with a goal that I would impact and also cause positive change to the people that I'm communicating to. Yes.
Yeah. How have you interacted with persons with disabilities?
First of all, since Light for the World is a global disability inclusion organization that focuses on disability inclusion all round, even in eye health. So first of all, it's through the programs that we do as Light for the World, I've been able to interact with people with disabilities, because that's what we focus on, with various impairments. But also the other thing, I've also learned to pick interest, because you cannot communicate with people with disabilities if you're not interested. For example, I've learned to sign. I've learned a little bit of Braille. And also when you're trying to communicate online, for example, if you're posting photos, then you'll have to use the accessibility features, and then you have to describe the photos, because at the back of your mind, I'm not just communicating to people that are able to see, I'm also communicating with those that have visual impairments. If it's a video, does it have subtitles? Just trying to be inclusive in my work, and also being mindful of everything that I do. Yeah.
That's very interesting. I like the part on, being able to put in mind that, that not everybody is seeing the captions, not everybody is understanding the communication that you're using of everyday language, but there's actually more things that you have to put in mind while communicating as a person. And that goes for everybody in communications, television, radio, and so on and so forth. I will now go to Tonny. Tonny, I believe you are a farmer. That is a very interesting piece of information I gathered. And I want to understand, how are you able to gain access to land, and what has inspired you to keep on going at it?
About being a farmer, yes, I'm a goat farmer. And we started with 3 goats in a small place. And when we heard about the innovation challenge, it was part of Light for the World and another partner. We applied and we were able to get 3 million. And that is about $1,000. Yes, that is how I moved from having 3 goats, and I was able to hire some land. Yes, but there were a lot of challenges, because in the neighborhood, sometimes they would kill the goats, and it was really a bad experience. So we tried to look for more money, and that is how I got connected to Tonny Mulenzi Foundation. And we applied for some money, and we were able to get $5,000. That is about 17 million Uganda shillings. And we were able to get our own land. It is not so big, but it is there. It's in Mokono, and that is where we do our farming from. But farming is not so easy, more especially for us persons with disabilities, because we miss lots of opportunities. And also, I wanted to take my farming to the family land, but they said no. So I had to find ways of acquiring my own land and be able to do my farming. So our parents, most of the times, don't believe that we can be able to do these things. But I'm very lucky that I was able to get access to finance, and I was able to acquire that land. But I believe there are many young people out there who would love to also do farming and all that, but they don't have access to land.
Oh, that is a very interesting story. So the original farm that you had before people started killing the goats, was that a rampant thing that was happening in this village, or did they do it for discrimination purposes?
So, when you start farming, sometimes your animals may go into people's gardens and all that. And for us, me being deaf, I don't know how to communicate. So they may think that I'm just confusing them. So that, I believe they did that to scare me off, because they reported me to the LC and all that. Yeah, but it was because the goats would go in people's gardens. That's why they were being killed.
I think that brings me to Charity. Charity, there's people with disabilities and people without disabilities. And as you've seen, Tonny has expressed that since he was not able to communicate to these people, it was a bit difficult for them. As a communicator, how do we bring these people together to be able to work together and be listened to and understood?
So maybe before I answer that question, I'll still go back to what Tonny has said, that it even goes back to his family. It goes back to how parents treat children with disabilities. First of all, they believe that these children cannot. You find that in a family, probably you could find someone with a physical impairment, and they're giving out land as inheritance. So they'll be like, why would we give this person with a disability land? What are they going to use it for. So you find that even parents themselves have not accepted the children that they've given birth to. So it comes back to acceptance. First, accept your child and believe that whether they have a disability or not, they can become something, because disability is not a limitation. It becomes a disability if we don't deal with the barriers. So we have to deal with the barriers. Just understand that my child has a hearing impairment. What do they need to become better, or what do they need to access what they need to access? So as a communicator, how do I bridge the gap? It comes back to mindset change, changing the mindset, knowing that one day I can wake up full-bodied, I go out, car accident, I've lost my legs. Does that mean that I cannot own land? Does that mean I cannot do other things? No, life has to go on. I have to just get those things that are going to make my life easy so that I can access whatever I have to access. So it starts with mindset change and accepting that regardless of whether one has a disability or not, we are people first before the disability comes. So society has to understand that someone having a disability does not make them different. They just have something that limits them. We just have to deal with the barrier. So through my work, I do a lot of communications and advocacy. And with mindset change, you can never measure impact. You can never know. It takes a lot of time for people's minds to change. So you have to do it consistently. So it's through consistent trainings, through consistent advocacy. So through my work, I get to advocate and also do consistent work so that it sticks in people's minds, but also bringing it to a level that someone, I like this statement that what a man can do, a woman can do. I don't know how true that is, but I would like to use it in this context that what a person without a disability can do, a person with a disability can do. So we are all on a level ground. How do we deal with the barrier to make the other people's lives better?
So, Tony, while you're doing all of this work, having a farm and being a part of different communities, I believe you've faced quite a lot of stigma from people, but also from the people that surround you in these communities where you are. How have you been able to handle that stigma?
Okay, thank you so much for that question. Stigma comes from negative attitude from the people that we stay with all around. So sometimes people may fail to understand us, or they don't know how to work with us. How to manage this stigma? It starts with us ourselves. When you're confident about yourself, then you can be able to change the way other people feel about you. And in the village where I rear my goats, at the start, people thought that I wouldn't do anything, but I was consistent, and they saw that things were moving on well. And you know what happened there? Many people don't know my name. They didn't know my name, but they feared to call me funny names now like Kasiru, because they know deaf people love to consider themselves as vulnerable. But now they call me Omgaga Wembuzi, And before I didn't know about the meaning of the word. But the goat dealers, one day, people came looking for me in the village, and they were asking, do you know the deaf guy who keeps goats? And then they said, yeah, Omgaga Wembuzi jali eyo. So all people don't know my name, but that I feel that is positive change, because at least they can see that I can do something, and it has really impacted a lot. But also, if you're not confident enough, then people can always call you anything that they love or that they want. So to mitigate stigma, I feel we need to be confident of what we do. Yes. And also, maybe training on disability inclusion awareness can also be a good thing, because for me, I love Light for the World's approach on disability inclusion. At least we have disability inclusion facilitators who go out there in the communities and meet different people, leaders, employers, and all those kind of people to tell them about disability inclusion. So we have a saying that there is nothing about us without us. That means it has to start by making awareness so that people can know about us.
That's a very amazing transition, Gagawe Mbuzi. I think my question would now be, I know that, when you face these stigmas, it comes with mental health challenges. Now especially for people who probably do not have these opportunities that you have, how have people in your community or even yourself, how have you been able to make sure that your mental health and your mindset still stays focused and these things do not disturb you to react in a negative way?
As a person with a disability, I think the mental health can affect any person who gets negative attitude from any person, and it can limit you from working very well. But in that way, if you at least have mentors, they can be able to support you and also focus on things that work very well. For example, I had a lot of challenges in the first place where I was keeping my goats, but then I started looking for money, and had access to resources is also very important, because when you have what you need, it can keep pushing you. So young people with disabilities need to work hard and focus more on things that they benefit from. Yes, I believe there is a lot of stigma and being timid, but we just have to be strong, yes.
Thank you, Tony, and I hope everything goes on smoothly in this new community that you have joined, and you keep on becoming a more richer and richer person with guts. Yeah. Now to Charity. Since these stigmas are, recurring and they're still happening in these communities, what are you doing as a communicator to make sure that these stigmas are at least lessened through communication?
Okay. Tony has mentioned most of the things really, but I would say that first of all, it's the people with the disabilities themselves, empowering them with this knowledge that however much you have this disability, you can actually be someone, you can achieve what you want to achieve. You don't need to let anyone put you down. So it's self-awareness first, and the confidence we build in them. And then they are able to deal with the stigma. But also, we teach communities that disability inclusion is not charity. It's a right. Like, for example, we all grew up knowing that I have a right to food, I have a right to education. When I go to a place, there is a public toilet policy where I should not be denied to go to the toilet. So I believe that for disability inclusion, just like you go in a public setting and you find a toilet or you find anything that is public, disability inclusion shouldn't be treated as a mode of charity, but as a right. It should be there. So that's what we do in communities. But also the other thing that we do as an organization is economic independence. So you know that people that are economically empowered are confident in a way. I would say that in quotes, because if you see Tony, they call him Omugagawe Mbuzi, right? So when someone is economically empowered, they have they have a certain level of confidence to do whatever they need to do. So we give them skills, and these skills help them to be economically independent. So through my communications or through the work we do in communications, that's still mindset change and advocacy. It's consistent, just like I said in the beginning. Mindset change is it progresses. You cannot change people's mindset in one day. You have to continuously do it. But we've also worked with different partners to ensure that they are inclusive in their workspaces. Telling them that someone like Tony, if you're employing someone like Tony, make sure that they have a sign language interpreter. If you hire someone who is visually impaired, do you have accessibility features in the laptops? Do you have Braille? So it's about teaching communities, but also making sure that people embrace and also welcome it, because actually disability inclusion is the new normal. And people don't know that when you employ people with disabilities, there's a certain percentage that government gives you off. Like there's a certain percentage you don't pay for tax. So these are things that we are putting in place. There are different policies that we're educating people about, but also I'd like to go back to what Tony said in the beginning. It starts with you as a person. Am I inclusive in how I communicate? Am I trying to learn sign language? Or also the people with disabilities, do I believe in what I do? Because if you don't believe in yourself, then it's hard for other people to believe in you. So it starts with you. Then you can take on that change to the community. So we've tried to do that, and it's also part of how we communicate.
Okay. So, Tony, what would you tell a young person out there with a disability who is probably struggling through so many things? Probably they're at school or trying to look for a job, in university, high school, probably transitioning from internship to employment, and probably they don't know what to do next. What would you tell that person? How would you encourage them at this moment?
Okay, thank you so much. Dear young people out there, the last census, we had 14.1% of persons living with disabilities. That is in Uganda. And most of them are young people. Some have completed university but are struggling. And I know job hunting is also a big challenge, but what is important, we need to find something that we love or compassionate about. Don't only focus on one thing, but we should always find other ways. We should be hustlers. We need to look out for opportunities. And any opportunity that comes, always endeavor to grab it. Because if I had looked down on the 3 months internship opportunity, I wouldn't be here now. So you can always start small and then it can always expand. So what is important is that whatever opportunity that you get hold of, please take it on, and then it will lead you to bigger spaces. And also always try to look out for mentors. They will always be there to guide you as you also build on your self-esteem. That will help you to be more successful.
Thank you so much, Tony. And to you, Charity, how do you think we can build more inclusive communities besides the ones that you've been able to tackle as a communicator, even with Light of the World? How else can we jump into other communities and teach them these models of understanding persons with disabilities, living with them, treating them as human before any other thing?
What I would say is that with the barriers, there is a disability. Without a barrier, there is no disability. So what I would say is that let's deal with the barriers. And then when we've dealt with all those barriers, then we will have no people with disabilities, because what causes someone to have a disability is that thing that is hindering them from achieving. Probably someone has come for an interview and this building did not have an elevator. It has staircases and they're in their wheelchair. The staircases are the barrier. So if we deal with the staircases, then this person is able to come through and get their interview, probably even get the job. So for the communities, let's accept people with disabilities and also deal with the barriers. Let's take away the barriers, take away the stigma, the negative attitude, and see these people as people first before the disability, and then community will be able to thrive. Because for me, I believe that disability inclusion should not be a space that we fight for. Actually, people with disabilities should not fight for space. They should have the space, just like anybody has it. So let's create the space and let's allow them thrive like we are thriving. But that comes through mindset change.
Thank you so much, Charity, for being a part of this conversation. Thank you, Tony, for coming. This has been such an enlightening conversation. And of course, this has been Voices of Ability, a podcast that is amplifying stories and voices of persons with disabilities. This has been under the We Are Able program implemented by ZOA, Light of the World, Nudipu, the Hague Academy, as well as many other partners. And we're so proud that we have been able to have these conversations going. And it's just a reminder that inclusion is not just a favor, but it is a basic human right to make sure that we include these individuals in each and everything that we do. Until next time, thank you so much for watching. Keep listening and keep including. Thank you so much for being a part of this.